10 years ago, 5 years before the start of the worldwide phenomenon that is the Writ Wit podcast, Matt Donald was studying at the Retopolis University to become an English major. Studying at the same college to become a music major is Matt David, and currently the two are eating in the college cafeteria while contemplating their lives as humble university students. The atmosphere is electric, as thousands of creative arts students live and study in this wondrous school, preparing them little to none for a good job or an adult life.
Ugh, this cafeteria is no good. I'm not sure what on my plate is edible versus what isn't. I suppose that's a trick question. None of it's edible!
It could be worse. We could be studying at Sonic Town College. Speaking of which, why aren't you getting your music degree there instead of, the writing city of Retopolis?
Competition was fierce for applications there. Plus, Retopolis is a writing city, not a writing city. All creative work counts, including music. No engineers or lawyers are coming out of Retopolis University, that's for dang sure.
Right, of course. My creative assignment class is the worst. Mr. Boyle wants me to come up with a big creative project, and I've got nothing. My mind is zapped after Friday's big party with Omega Z Omega.
That was the best party, wasn't it? Of course, I don't actually remember most of it. I drank too much apple juice.
And I got so high off of Hot Pocket fumes. I still feel a bit of a buzz, let me tell you. But yeah, Mr. Boyle wants the project pitch done by Wednesday.
I feel your pain. My music professor, Mr. Doyle, wants me to syllabify the entire Ring Cycle by Richard Wagner and play it backward with the harmonica by tomorrow. That's freaking brutal.
Oh, please. That's nothing compared to coming up with one project pitch by Wednesday. I mean, the harmonica's like the easiest instrument to play.
You're not getting the... Never mind. Well, lunch is over, so I guess off to our classes. Hopefully I can survive Mr. Doyle's assignment without lobotomizing my brain.
Me too, buddy. I like your brain. 30 minutes later, in classroom 0303 at Captain Rit Hall. Think, Donald. Think of a project. It's freaking 2011. Things are going great the world over. Surely it'll be easy for me to contribute.
Good afternoon, class. I have arrived.
Wait, who are you? What happened to Mr. Boyle?
Oh, a series of tragic circumstances forced him to relinquish his teachings for the rest of the semester. I will take over as your instructor. My name is Professor Vladimir Telemachus von Bildensroman, and I expect nothing but top marks from each of you.
How can we give you top marks, Professor Building Trojan? Omega Z Omega's got another party this Friday.
Going to parties already? You have automatically failed this assignment.
No, not the assignment.
And you failed the course.
No, not the course.
And you shall be expelled from Retopolis University.
Not the university.
And you fail life. See you in hell, mister.
No, I don't wanna. My Nana's in heaven, and I wanna be with her.
Get out of here, you waste of carbon molecules. So, I understand you're supposed to come up with a pitch for a creative project by Wednesday. Ha! I'll do you one better. Come up with a pitch and the first draft of the project by tomorrow!
Not by tomorrow. I want to transfer to Mr. Doyle's music class. I can play the harmonica super well. The next morning at the cafeteria during breakfast.
What is this garbage we're having for breakfast? Maple waffle caviar? Healthy and breakfast themed? God, I hate it!
I hate life. I'm never gonna graduate.
Still haven't come up with a project yet for Mr. Boyle?
It's not Mr. Boyle anymore. He's been replaced by this real piece of poo-doo-doo called Professor von Bildensroman.
Poo-doo-doo?
Yeah, he puts the dung in Bildensroman.
Wow, he must be bad. You should vent about him on Retopolis University Radio. Everyone's got a radio show now.
Radio show?
Yeah, where all the Ritters talk about all their crap in a silly and sometimes witty manner.
Witty Ritters on the radio?
Yeah. Ooh. That could be a show on Ritopolis University Radio, the Witty Ritters.
David, that's brilliant! That could be my creative project. It might just impress Professor Von Bill Poo-Poo's Roman after all.
Great. Glad you've got your problem sorted out. Still working on syllabifying this dumb ring opera by Wagner. Do you know how many syllables are in this thing? Why can't I just syllabify the Looney Tunes version? Donald? Donald! He's gone. Must be nice to have his project taken care of. Ooh, maybe I can stock up on apple juice for Omega Z Omega's next party. That should get me back on track.
Hours later, in classroom 0303 at Captain Rit Hall.
So far, may I say that I am not impressed by any of your projects. It's been F's across the board. Can this change, though? Can one of you actually work those neurons hard enough to achieve something beyond mediocrity?
I'm tired of your nonsense, Professor. I am a grade A student with a 7.0 GPA, and I will not have you fail us all because of your pettiness and maniacal narcissism.
Is that so? Well then, I suppose you get an A.
Oh gee, thanks, Professor! I seriously did not expect such a resolution.
An atomic bomb launched at your mother's house? You will not be living in her basement anymore.
No! Not my mother's house! I was living there rent-free! Oh, yeah, and I suppose I'm sad for my mom, too.
That's what you get for questioning my methods. Now, who's next? Mr. Matt Donald? That's not a real last name.
Neither is Bilton's, Ramon.
How dare you!
Anyways, my project is this radio show about writting in the creative arts, called The Witty Ritters. It'll star me and whatever poor schmuck I drag along into this.
A radio show? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You don't get an F, you get a G minus.
What?
And you fail the class. Get out of here before I destroy you.
Just destroy.
Get out of here! I never want to see you again. When I achieve world domination, you will be the first I'll quell.
Okay. You can quell me. Just make it quick, okay?
Get out.
Hours later, after classes have finished.
Guess who has 4 thumbs and finished syllabifying the ring cycle by Wagner and played it backwards with the harmonica? This guy! And this other guy named Fred that helped me finish the project. Nice guy. Whoa, Donald, are you okay?
I've been broken. I was so set on that radio show idea, and it just blew up in my face. Like that one student's house from the atom bomb.
Well, you could maybe still do the show. Just, after college where Professor Bill Doo-Doo's Roman isn't nearby.
After college? But then I won't have access to the Ritopolis University radio station.
That's the thing, though. You see, there's this new trend going around called podcasts. Maybe you should try it there, giving the Witty Ritters a new home.
Maybe. I think I need to recover from that vicious attack. Like, maybe 5 years.
That's probably a good idea. Also, we could probably workshop that name a bit.
Yeah, probably. So, up for the Omega Z Omega party this Friday?
Sure thing. I bought lots of apple juice for the occasion, and I also got your favorite, Capri Suns!
What? Yes! 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 Capri Suns! We're gonna party like f***ing animals!
Yeah!
And so, the basic idea of the Writ Wit podcast was birthed in the mind of young Matthew Donald. It would be some time before he took the plunge and started it for real. And look where it is now! A true rags to slightly fancier rags story. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful adventure of the past. We now return to the Witty Ritters, the Writ Wit.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Writ Wit, the only show on the whole World Wide Web that dares to talk about writting. I mean, there are plenty of writing shows out there, but writting? Nay, that's too much of an endeavor for other lesser podcasts, but not for us. not for us.
Not
We're
us.
certainly the most qualified ever to talk about writing.
We are better than you, listeners.
And we know it, obviously. All right.
All right, finally, let's just get straight into it. There's no time.
We don't have a segment before, so that's why we're getting straight
We have
into the ultimate evolution in our apparently Pokemon-based level-up system that is age demographics, adult fiction, not porn fiction or smut, obviously. Sorry for those of you who were expecting. That's a whole different beast. Well, let's be real, probably end up covering one of these days. We exhausted literally every other single topic and really want to end this show with a bang. But without the actual topic at hand, adult fiction is vast in scope and style, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily the best type of fiction. What are the benefits and detriments of writing adult fiction?
You gotta give me credit. Like you can't. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I'm too tired. But the benefits and detriments thing, it's just a great question. I use it a lot. I'm not ashamed of it. It gets it
not
done.
Anymore.
No, I embrace it. and I embrace the.
But you know what I embrace more than just using the well-worn question? It's a good question. Actual critical thinking. However, for now, let's start with the benefits and detriments and then go from there.
As much as I don't really write adult fiction, I embrace the limitless potential of it. You can write about anything. Seriously, anything you want. It can be as shallow or as deep as you want. It can have as many or as little sex and swears and violence as you want. It can have as complex or as simple themes and characters as you want. The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I'd imagine that you can't just have vapid, shallow crap, but,
Have you ever heard of the author Matthew Riley?
I cannot say I have, but hey, another Matt!
He's the Michael Bay of literature. He's the self-proclaimed Michael Bay of literature.
Wow. And I thought that was something not to be proud of. Okay.
And he writes a lot of really crazy stuff. Like, we're talking about gorillas with laser guns.
Wow.
But with humans there. That's not like...
right.
Yeah, but anyway.
They're not quite dinosaur... not like humans and dinosaur scales.
Yep, there's just a lot of explosions and car chases. They're very fast-paced books.
All right. For one quick interruption. On the flight out to the family reunion, my brother was talking to his neighbors on the plane saying, yeah, I'm kind of the black sheep of the family. I look over and I said, that's not something you're supposed to brag about.
Depends on how bad the family is. But... Okay.
If they're all black sheep, then how do you call one the black sheep
I'm the white sheep.
All right, anyway.
Okay. Anyways, so obviously certain things work better than others for adult fiction, but if you write the story in a mature way, you really can write about anything. Like, Anonymous Rex is a book I've mentioned on the show before, and it's about a velociraptor detective who solves dinosaur crimes in the modern day, with a bunch of dinosaurs hiding in human disguises in our world. Sounds like a fun kid's book, right? Except there's a lot of sex, swearing, and occasional horrific bits of violence. And the final book of this trilogy is called Hot and Sweaty Rex, for crying out loud.
Oh my god.
Like, it's fun, though.
I'm sure.
Like, it has this gem of a line that, if I recall correctly, and I'm going to bleep some of this out, is Velociraptors Velociraptors, and Coelophysis Coelophysis, and the two together, although would make a hell of a fun night, could never produce a Velociphysis.
Oh my jeez. Speaking of an R rating, no.
Basically, you can write about whatever you want. So.
No, but seriously though, if this isn't R, then you aren't really trying. Because that's their benefit of adult fiction. Vulgarity is forgiven because they probably have seen or heard or read worse.
That's true. Doesn't matter how heinous the book is.
Apparently the actions of coupling species not cross-producing a Velociphysis. However, detriment, you can't put out blithe picture book type stories and expect them to care at all.
No, unless it's like one of those ironic ones where it's really graphic.
Bring on the polysyllabic words! Come on, this intimate scene isn't reamed over or removed out by the editor. It's great. Who cares what substances or tragic circumstances are used? Obviously, the writer will only do what they feel comfortable with, but there's an audience for any degree of vulgarity in adult-aimed stories.
Like, look at most adult comedy books out there. They are filthy.
Look at stand-up comics. I mean, they're pretty raunchy.
That's true.
Another detriment that comes with age is losing that innate sense of curiosity, such that these stories aren't typically so fantastic or reality-defying.
That's true.
On the other hand, one benefit of writing adult fiction, you don't really have to explain anything.
That's true.
Unless you don't expect a regular adult to understand the concept.
I guess that's true, yeah.
With a kid, you have to assume that they don't know. With an adult, you generally can assume that
you
they
mean
know.
Explain, like, concepts in our real world. I thought you meant, like, explain, like, fantastical things. Like, that's what kids mean.
Concepts in our real world, how the technology of a spaceship works, if they're actually writing stories about spaceships. But
yeah, no, I get what you mean now. Okay.
Right. So there's that.
I made a joke about the stock market in the third Megazoic book by Amazon.com, and I'm very proud of that. It made me feel so grown up.
Even though you know next to nothing about the stock market.
I think I used it correctly. I talked about the company being the sole proprietor, and like it hasn't gone public yet, so there's no shares. Good stuff.
And a kid will have to go figure out what it means.
But
an adult shouldn't need that reference. Shouldn't.
Yeah.
But if there's a concept that is either so like marginal, not popular, that you don't expect people to know, obviously you're not absolved of the need to do that. But generally speaking, you don't have to explain your concepts.
That's true.
So benefit. Some of our listeners may think that anime is always aimed at kids.
I don't. I know hentai.
Truth is, there's a broad enough variety of genres within it that certain programs air only after dark because they're meant for adults. If anyone doesn't know what hentai means, don't go Google searching that one, kids.
Yeah.
It'll come of its own accord, though I kind of wish it wouldn't.
Man, the things I've seen.
That I can't unsee.
Something about tentacles, anyways.
There's, a bit of cross-promotion-ish here.
Okay, I'm scared.
I am working on a project that is another podcast entitled Nerds Are Us.
Yes.
And one of my good friends, our guest mutually, our good friend Joel, and I do this together. And one of the things that we have a habit of doing when we see enemy creatures on Tokusatsu shows that happen to have tentacular appendages.
Okay, nice word, tentacular.
Is to make the comment, I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
Yeah.
Don't look that one up, kids. I apologize. But this is about the adult fiction. I mean, you could have come in with some warning. Anyhow, there are obviously things that adult novels have that novels for younger audiences don't. But what about the inverse?
Ooh.
What are things that are more tolerated in children's and young adult fiction, or middle grade, since that was the other one, more tolerated in those other than adult fiction? So, like, more so in those. And how can you work around that when writing adult fiction?
This is going to sound really cynical of me, but imagination and creativity is more celebrated in books for younger audiences. Adults have seen enough of the crap in this world that they're not as interested in that kind of wonder anymore.
Some still will be, but that's...
No, there's a lot of exceptions, but they like security rather than change, and therefore they don't like as much of the wilder and creative stuff. They want what they know works and nothing more, even if it might not work as well anymore.
Counterpoint that they're familiar with change.
Yes.
Affecting them. So seeing that in a character in a book like this would be something they can relate to.
Yes, exactly. But in terms of that kind of like wonder, they don't have that as much anymore. And it's kind of like on a related note, not to get too political here. This is why older people tend to skew more conservative and younger people tend to skew more liberal. Like, that's not favoritism for either way.
That's not a qualitative statement.
But basically, that's the trend, and that's why. Of course, there are plenty of exceptions in all these cases, but in the most general sense, this is where their interests lie. So,
unfortunate as that may be for those of us who like creativity.
I love creativity.
I guess our target audience for this particular episode isn't really listening to this podcast.
Oh God.
Yikes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Don't expect to leave something unexplained and have them just accept it.
Yes, that's true. Wait, you say you don't have to explain anything.
Remember that the question was works more in children's fiction?
Okay.
In children's fiction, you cannot leave something unexplained if it's new to them.
I guess that's true. Okay, I see what you mean.
Whereas adult fiction, it would work fine if it's not that new.
Right.
If it's still new, I mean, obviously there's that too. But the reason I bring this up, you don't have to explain your typical basic concepts, but with these fantastical ones, if you're targeting them at an adult audience, you do need to explain them.
Right.
Because they're not going to say, what the heck, it's okay, I'm just reading.
Yes, they don't. Their imagination and curiosity doesn't fill in the blanks for them like it does for.
Or isn't strong enough that they care to find out the answer.
Right.
Anyhow, particularly for the scientifically inclined, those spaceship physics need to be right, or they will laugh at your efforts.
Isn't that the truth?
Right, Alan? We love you, buddy. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Mr. Brooks.
The presence of an exotic setting tends to be more young adult or younger, opposed to surprisingly mundane scenarios.
Yes.
Office troubles, home fights, balancing the kid's schedule with your own. As to working around it, you can't!
Aw, man.
End of the episode, call it the podcast. We don't really have a magic solution, except doing it.
What a radical concept.
Throw it out there.
Yes.
Call it for adults. It will be read. Will it be appreciated? I don't know. Who cares, long as you had fun making the story? Adults are the most advanced readers in terms of life experience.
Yes.
Articulating their thoughts about something. So they will let you know if you didn't meet their expectations, whereas kids can barely come up with like 2 phrases to describe how a book made them feel.
What'd you think of the book? It was pretty good.
It was good. It was
good.
pretty bad, you know? Like it's basically those 2.
It was great, or it stunk.
If the only answer for a workaround to this includes either complete omission or utter alteration, that's not really a solution, is it?
No, it's really not. It's just avoiding it.
We're avoiding the elephant in the room, if you couldn't tell.
just getting a bazooka and just blowing up that elephant. Anyway.
What was the old one about getting was it a blue elephant gun?
Oh, yes.
Never mind.
Yeah, I love that joke. It's a bit
way
long.
too long, so we're not
It's
going
not
to tell
quite a
it.
purple kumquat joke, but
no. Speaking of long and annoying inane jokes. All right. Should an author do more in preparation to make a story like this work without feeling wrong?
I mean, I'd say probably, especially if you're someone like me who loves a lot of the conventions of children's young adult literature rather than adult literature. Read a lot of adult fiction, like study the patterns, see what themes resonate with them versus what would do with younger audiences. Like I've read quite a bit of adult fiction for some, like I like a lot of it. I like ones that like I like the ones that are more creative, you know.
Depending on where you classify authors like Dean Koontz and Clive Cussler, who I frequently cite.
They're very much adult audiences, I think. So.
Which, a lot of the things that are common in that, I mean, Dirk Pitt, to cite a character, is apparently capable of just about everything. And some of it's explained by his backstory, where he came from, what he did to get to where he is. But Dean Koontz in particular has a penchant for using the everyman.
Yes.
Thrown into extraordinary circumstances. Now that, to me, seems relatable.
That is relatable, and that's one of the reasons why, like, when in the 80s you had these movies that, like, had these unstoppable action heroes starring Arnie or Sylvester Stallone. But then in 1988, I think that's when it came out, you had Die Hard, which was about just a cop that was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, also terribly physically capable in Bruce Willis.
But he got beat up a lot. He got injured, but he just kept going. And that's a lot more relatable than just the strong man like Arnold Schwarzenegger would be. But Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, they have their own charm. But
yeah. It's interesting that I talked about anime not always being for kids, and Tokusatsu, there are actually a couple of shows that are aimed more at adults too.
Oh, cool.
One of those is called the Garo series. It's about you have this sword that summons a special suit of armor, and the amount of physical punishment they take in the course of their fights before they armor up. I'm just like, I don't even care that's unrealistic. That's just awesome to watch.
It is. And I think the ideal situation, I think the Uncharted video games do this best. You want to have a character that is both the unluckiest man in the world and the luckiest man in the world.
Lucky at precisely the right times and unlucky the rest.
They get beat up. They get hit a lot. They always get terrible situations happen to them, but they always get out of it by the skin of their teeth. So,
there is that.
So,
but, I mean, you were saying study patterns. Would you argue, trying to get us back on topic here, would you argue that that's something that you should do just for adult fiction?
No, like I think this works for all genres and demographics too, but one thing you can do for adult books that would be much more frowned upon in writing books for younger audiences is hanging out with this demographic. Like,
yeah,
you're an adult, so hang out with adults, see what they like and how they think from personal experience. And yeah, obviously don't do that if you're an adult writing children's books. Keep away, you creeps.
Well, unless they're your own kids.
I
mean, it's unfortunate that the stigma is that guys that come to schools where there are young children present, there's always a stigma about them.
Unfortunately, it's because it happens a lot.
The actions of a few are ruining it for the rest.
It's true. Back to the Future would have never been made now. about
Ooh, yeah, no way.
about like a young kid hanging out with this old man.
I better tell Joel about this episode. So, hi, Joel. We're talking about Back to the Future.
So yeah, but I think especially if you're
Well, and let's not ignore the elephant in that room where the mother apparently falls for her future son without realizing it.
True.
Anyway,
but like I just talk about in terms of like the relationship between Doc and Marty. That's never explained how it happened, how it started.
There's definitely a undertone to be read there by a modern audience that simply didn't occur to the people making the film.
Right.
Now, since I actually wrote this question, the things that came to mind and brought it about are facts or beliefs about things you don't understand very well.
Right.
In which case, of course, you have to research them. You have to do something to make sure that they're told accurately enough to the point you're trying to make. It may look like more research than just referencing Wikipedia to understand an issue.
Right.
It may turn into a challenge of what you, the author, believe about the way things are. Since this demographic is full of mature readers who aren't afraid to acknowledge when things don't get portrayed well,
right,
we have a higher responsibility to ensure correct portrayal in our subject matter.
That is true.
Unless you just want to keep it on your computer to feel edgy and mature without opening it up to the criticisms from your most experienced audience.
And see, this is another one of the reasons why I love young adult more than this. Because, research, it's just so intensive for this kind of stuff. And if you're into it, great. I just like writing. I like being imaginative.
Well, and the thing that we've already talked about, these readers, they aren't going to gravitate as readily to this fantastical idea because they don't, unless they're trying to escape from their droll reality.
That's true. It's just like, I just like a lot of the technology in the books I write it doesn't go into specifics on how it works.
Which means that either you assume they know and that's why adults would read it, or they'd be mad because you didn't explain it and it's not realistic on top of that.
What I do is I just show that it does work. And I let the audience just kind of buy it. Like, the characters buy it and the story buys it, so it doesn't have to be completely explained.
Something about a serious story taking itself seriously.
Kind of.
And the inverse,
But it's just like, there's some things that are explained, like, and they use some technobabble to talk about some things, but most of the time it's just, you just accept it because the characters do.
I don't really like writing technobabble. I'm not sciencey enough to care.
And that's the thing, that kind of thing is more appreciated in young adult or younger audience books, so adults would want to know how it all works. Sure.
So this is an interesting question, I guess, from thinking of my own attempts with this, but does a typical writing session for this material differ from another demographic? If it does, have you noted what causes that to feel such?
Honestly, I don't know. I've never written for adult audiences. Obviously all my friends are adults now and I like to please them, but they're not my main demographic, so I really have no idea what it feels like. My imagination tells me there's more liquor and locking yourself up in a dark place when writing adult books, though maybe that could just be the stereotype.
I seem to remember seeing an ad for a shirt. Wine, the glue holding the shit show that's COVID together. And I immediately had a thought of some of my colleagues from college days, and I'm like, I should buy this shirt for that person.
That's true.
But anyway, I don't know if it's necessarily more liquor, but that is the stereotype. That obviously, as an adult, you can enjoy the privileges of being an adult while doing this, and, that's up to you. I think we should keep drinking while we're recording the Writ Wit because I have a lot more fun doing it this way.
That is true. I used to do that. I used to bring in my podcast juice that was like the Mike's Hard Lemonade. Sad times. As soon as we moved to the studio and they only allow water in here, I'm just like, can't do it anymore.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, pardon me fumbling through somewhat euphemisms to admit that sometimes a salacious scene makes the writer uncomfortable while being written. Included in that is a sudden lack of interest in giving scenes their proper ending because you might need to step away from it for a bit.
True.
This could be true for emotional scenes that showcase brutal realities, and you just need time to pause from thinking about it too much.
That is true. I could definitely understand going through that.
I always err on the side of taking more time for yourself if it's necessary while writing these, such that you don't burn out or negatively affect yourself. Describing intimacy leading up to a climax. Graphic violence in text form. Getting too passionate because this character shares your beliefs in some argument. Some major debate raging, and this is the way you're addressing it in your story. There are many situations that may affect the writing session, assuming an uninterrupted one, which those are always a blessing.
Well, you
anyway.
can't always count on, but
no,
yes.
you can't, especially when you have a family to attend to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That said, duration compared to other demographics where the content is lighter, you're probably going to be affected either way.
Right.
You know, if you're getting too passionate about something but not like over the edge such that you just keep going, if you have to step away for whatever reason, be they carnal or just fearful,
right,
that it's going to be shorter. I mean, this is the ideal writing session being uninterrupted. You choose when it starts, when it ends, all of that. Assuming that is controlled, that I would expect this one varies the most.
It does. Like, in certain authors, they go through a lot of different experiences with it. I remember reading that Stephen King, one point, was so high on cocaine that there are several books that are out there he doesn't even remember writing.
If you're like me and prolific as Stephen King, just imagine what a really bad bender would put out.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Anyways, let's get to our questions to cap this off, and then we got one other segment to go to.
Yes, we do. So, as far as the rating systems go, we've been leading up to it. I mean, this, if it's not R, you're probably not trying.
Probably.
Or, you know, it might even be worse. It might even be NC-17,
Ooh.
depending on what kind of adult fiction. Although we did not talk about writing smut. There is that.
Nope.
Is the ESRB terms, this is AO, which is adults only,
yes,
18 plus. So, you know, if you're aiming for an adult audience, you don't have to hold anything back. You don't need to hold their hand to explain things. You don't need to worry about offending their sensibilities. They'll choose to be or not.
There was, so I follow a lot of movie stuff, and one of the things I follow is, like, you know, new MPAA ratings for new movies. And there was this one that was so traumatizing just hearing it. I just can't unhear it. It was just this one movie. It came out 10 years ago, so I don't even remember the name of it, but it was going through, like, the list of movies, and these are the ratings for them. One of them was this indie movie. It was rated NC-17, and the reason for it was a brutal rape. And I'm like, one rape that was so bad that it went all the way to the highest rating?
Well,
sounds...
But they do tend to talk in general terms. Like,
it's just because since it's so... It doesn't say what it is. The imagination just goes,
But I did look this up to try and match the research that Donald was doing on demographics. I did a little bit of research into the MPAA system, and they tend to do blanket language for what's in there.
Yes.
So, like, if you, this isn't the MPAA, I believe. I think it's maybe not Nielsen or something or other for TV shows, but, like, you go on Netflix and you start streaming a show, and it says rated whatever, and then explains why. But those things aren't all necessarily present in that one episode.
No, it also says it does do general terms like for violence and frightening images,
cartoon violence, fear, substances, sex, nudity.
The best one was for the Alice in Wonderland live action remake.
Oh God!
It was like PG for, like, what was it? So mild violence and fantasy action, and a smoking caterpillar. That was within the...
That's about as specific as that will ever get.
Yes,
wow.
They said literally, and a smoking caterpillar. That is literally what the thing says.
Talk about rewriting the whole dang system. Good job.
Okay.
Anyway, the other follow-up per the rest of the set we've done is the major issue about how old one needs to be to write these best.
You have to be an adult to write this. Like, if you write it as a teenager or whatever, it will come across as ingenuine.
Yeah,
it would be very ingenuine. You have to be an adult.
I'd argue for adult, short of smut, you can't really do it at all until you've reached adulthood. Unlike the other where you can kind of write it in the demographic, you have to get to this one
That's true.
first.
Other ones you can kind of fake it all right. This one you really can't. So.
With the caveat, however, that mental maturity can happen earlier for some.
That's true.
But because of the subject material, there's no substitute for the wisdom that time provides. If you never had sexual relations, how do you write them very well?
Well, and also, even if you know about them, like, you need
Even if you only tangentially know about them,
like,
but you're just kind of guessing.
a teenager can write a book that's attempted aiming at this level of sex, drugs, rock and roll, violence that they want, but since they're still teenagers, it's not going to come across as mature.
Right.
So, even though it would fit in this just because of content alone, it wouldn't be a good book.
It wouldn't be very well done, but that should not stop you from trying.
Yeah, try. Do it.
But like I said earlier, the kind of jab, just keep it on the computer. Remind yourself, oh, this is what I used to be able to do. Now I can do better.
And you can use it as a stepping stone to get somewhere better. So,
never forget Future World, Donald. Never forget.
You never let me. The fans never let me. And speaking of which,
reading the fan mail.
Yeah, we're back to this after missing it out in last.
We didn't have one last time because we had the special guest star, so please go listen to that
Thank
episode.
you, Matt. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Cook, for joining us. But as always, thank you very much for the responses. We actually do have a special treat for you today, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Ooh.
First, a comment from listener Chris E. in Arizona. I wonder how much planning went into the order for your ending set. It seemed a little hectic, but I thought it was neat, so good job.
Thank you, Chris. I guess.
In particular, I remember we had a couple of discussions about how to accomplish that before you heard the end result. We actually did consider another flow.
Yes.
But then we changed, the interior ones.
That's true, yeah, so.
Anyway, second here, and this is, I'm proud to bring you the treat, an excerpt.
Yes.
From our listener, Wade R. in Vermont. Please share this with other listeners of the Writ Wit. I'm happy to start a potential trend of reading these excerpts on the air. He included a snippet of his latest work using one of the vocabulary vitamins. I feel so accomplished
you
now,
did
Donald.
Is it effervescence?
No.
Aww.
You'll have to listen.
Okay.
Anyways, it reads, when the captain wandered off the bridge, the first mate was left wondering just how viable that attack strategy was. In the mate's mind, it amounted to suicide, and while he wasn't sure it would do anything, he was determined to speak his mind to the captain personally. Ooh. You have the bridge, he muttered to his neighbor, getting up from the seat so fast it spun around like a top.
Whoa.
Thanks so much for that excerpt, Wade.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, I'm interested in what decision the captain apparently made, and maybe the first mate can actually change his mind.
The swivel chair makes me realize this is not colonial time sailing. This is a modern ship.
No, I'm assuming this is a spaceship, but obviously you only have this to go on, so I couldn't tell you.
That's true. So I got, yeah.
Because why would you say bridge on a sailing ship?
That's true. You could say it on some sailing ships.
You have
big ones.
You have the wheel, maybe, but I don't know if they call that the bridge.
On the Titanic, you have the bow or something like that. You have
the bow is at the front, and the stern's at the back.
The
right?
bridge would be where the people are steering it, wouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah. So
I don't think they'd say bridge. I think they'd say wheel. Maybe.
I don't know. The room that the wheel is in.
We shouldn't be arguing too much about this because
I'm
we got another
nauticalist.
Yeah, I definitely don't know nautical very well to do this. But
all right.
Nevertheless, thank you so much for sending that in. It is so cool that somebody's using a vocab vitamin and actually proving it for us and asking us to read it on the air.
We actually have listeners. Who would have thunk?
All right. Thank you very much for that, Wade. All right. The last comment from this go-round that we did decide to share is apparently from a quite concerned listener, Yvonne R. out of Tennessee, saying, Matt David owes Matt Donald a major apology.
I mean, yeah, but for what specifically?
Every time Donald calls out his bullshit, David gets defensive and spins as if he said something which directly contradicts the earlier line. He should listen back to the recordings of several episodes and he'll hear that.
What is she talking about?
Yvonne, I'm so grateful that you wrote in and also didn't mind us sharing this, because I apparently need to set the record straight. Actually, wait.
What is it she's saying? What is she talking about?
That's exactly what she was saying, isn't it?
Yes. Put the record straight. Show me my place, David.
Contradicting what I've said earlier, because apparently I'm perfect, right?
Maybe. I've always thought that.
I mean, it's obvious that I despise being wrong, but that is not fair to my co-host. I hope you're listening, Yvonne, because you are prompting me to offer a formal apology on air to my co-host for all those times I try wriggling out of being incorrect.
I was just going to say, it's okay. You didn't know she was my sister.
So sorry, Donald, for being such a pain in the rear about those times you do call me out for saying something wrong.
Of course. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. It was mating season. How could I have known that she was your sister? How long have you two been standing there? Too
That's what
long.
you were referencing. Okay. Yeah. Anyways. Thank you very much for sending those things in.
Good
As
fan
ever,
mail.
please stay in touch with us. We always love hearing from you. And if you want to do that, well, listen for approximately 20 more seconds, and we'll tell you how.
Okay, 20 more seconds. Let's see. Contact us at Matt D, Matthew.creator. Okay.
Well, that's right there. I mean, that's no time.
Contact us at mattd@matthewdonaldcreator.com for any general questions to either co-host.
If you have something to specify, David or Donald is appreciated. We share Matt D, after all.
Yes. Follow me at Matthew Donald Creator on Facebook, at Matthew Donald 64 on Twitter, and Matthew Donald 64 on Instagram. And Y64, because I got to come up with every Y64 joke every damn week. And I don't write any of them down, so I bet you there are repeats that I do not intend. It makes this job hard. Dang it, this is a hard job. Being creative is hard work. I want to consume instead. Consume. That's Y64. Anyways. I say that because
all of our patrons, by the way,
Oh yeah, thank you for the patrons. Follow us patreon.com/Matthew Donald.
Check it out there for more information.
I brought this up because I was listening to some older stuff, and I realized that joke I did last time with the 64 career paths I could have taken. I've done that before, I think. So I don't write these down. So
fair enough. I get it. But anyway, wherever you're listening to us, thank you so much for doing that. If you'd leave us a rating, a like, share it with your friends.
Yes.
Let us know. Help the algorithm help get our name out there.
Rate it on Apple Podcasts.
Or wherever you're listening. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if it's YouTube. Whatever it may be, we thank you so much for your support. And until next time, when we come back with a new set.
I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. That was the Writ Wit. We tweeted ourselves out about demographics because we're not doing a special 5th week special on smut. Sorry.
Or really old people. Writing
geriatric fiction. Is that a thing?
Writing for septuagenarians.
All right. Well, stay safe. Keep wearing masks in public. Get your vaccine if you have the opportunity. Ridding, wash your hands.
Yes, all that stuff. Stay safe.
And we'll see you next week. Please come back. Bye.
Bye.
The Writ Wit Podcast.
Yes! Capri Suns! We're gonna party like f***ing animals!